jump to the Chief Financial Officer's report.
The operating revenue for the month was only $140,000. The revenue from all funds was a little over $2.2 million. The majority of that was the $2 million in the capital projects fund, which was the result of a transfer from the working cash fund. One of the reasons that the operating fund revenue was as low as it was is because we made a transfer this month out of the registration fees, where we put the money as we collected, and we transferred it into activity accounts and some of the other accounts that you can see on there, athletic pay to participate and technology fees. But that transfer out of registration funds reduced our operating revenue for the month. The operating revenue for the first 5 months is $10.7 million. It's 47% of budget. And I think if you look at most of the funds, with the exception of the transportation fund, are right where they should be. Transportation fund is running at about 32%. The reason that's as low as it is because we haven't received the reimbursements from the state for our transportation. Operating expenditures for the month were $1.7 million. Total expenditures were $4.7 million. The difference, again, $2 million is a transfer to capital projects. That's an expenditure in the working cash fund, and we spent a little over $1 million on the projects kept for capital projects and life safety for the work across the street. The total operating expenditures for the first 5 months were 55% of budget. Again, a little bit higher than you would normally expect, but part of that has to do with the fact that we made the annual payment to Airmark as opposed to the quarterly payments, and also the transfers from working cash to capital projects. Our operating fund balances at the end of November, $11.7 million. The only other item, and there were some questions with regard to the revenue. There was a question on the tax revenues. Right now, the November, or the August rather, collections that we've had are running in most of the funds at about 3 to 4% over budget. Those amounts obviously will remain over budget for the rest of the year. How that'll impact the end of the year, I'm going to do the quarterly review at the end of next month, but a lot of that will depend upon the revenue that we receive in March, and see where that comes in relationship to budget. If that's a little bit lower than budget, then that'll kind of even that out. If that comes in at budget, then we're going to have some additional money there.
But we set the budget and we expect it to be counted based, if we do an accurate budget, we expect it to be accurate, and we actually are over collecting, right? I mean, if we did it correctly, they do 55% of last year's in the first collection rate, and then the difference in the second collection, right?
Right.
But, so we don't expect that. I mean, that's why, we won't know till the end of the year what it is, but when we did our analysis and when you presented to us, you made the presumptions of here's what should be for this first collection here, and the second one should be where you budgeted there. So, I mean, the county didn't do something different to shift more than the 55% to collect more for this period, did they? Did it?
No.
Okay.
So it really...
So if all other things being equal, if the numbers you gave us right and our approved budget right, it looks like we're going to be over budget for this year, doesn't it?
On the collections for taxes, I would say yes.
Okay.
Is any of that going to get pushed back to the previous fiscal year because it's a back taxes and it's just showing up in collections?
No.
Okay.
There was also a question with regard to special ed orphanage receipts that we received from the state, and federal special education idea room and board that we received federal government money. That's on page 22. The question was, were those monies that we hadn't budgeted, or was it timing? Those are actually timing issues. That's money that we should have received in June, but obviously didn't receive because the state didn't make the payments then. The only other item that I wanted to discuss was with regard to the AT&T contract on the cell tower. This is something we discussed with the Finance Council. AT&T built the tower that we have, and part of the agreement was that for a 36-month period, starting when the tower was completed, we would abate the rent payments from them for 36 months. So that goes back to October of 2010. At that time, they continued to make the payments, and they never stopped making the payments to us. So now they've come to us and they want us to write them a check for about $66,000 to pay back those back payments. I've checked with our attorney, there's no statute of limitations on that. One of the things that I think we should suggest to AT&T is that we wait until July of next year to start making that reimbursement, so that it doesn't impact, our fiscal year this year. The payments wouldn't have to go for a full 36 months because obviously we're entitled to higher payments now. It would go for a period of, I think it would go through like February 2019.
So the idea would be starting July 1st, we wouldn't receive any payments from AT&T.
Correct.
They'd basically be working off the back of
So
the post-dated money that they think we owe them, or we do owe them.
And the money from AT&T is probably around, at that time, it's around $2,000 a month. I mean, it's in that neighborhood that we receive right now.
So basically, a little under 3 years of no payments from AT&T.
Correct.
And we're investigating when we renew our contract with Sprint, when that's going to be coming up.
Yes, we're going to look at the contract with Sprint, see when we can renew that contract, if we can increase the payments they're making, because they're significantly less than what we're receiving from Verizon.
Okay.
Any questions?
And we also did, one other, didn't Sprint also abate for a while?
Sprint abated it. Their agreement was that if they moved their equipment from the old tower to the new tower, that they would also have an abatement for a number of months.
We have our attorney looking into the Sprint contract.